brought to you by Intuit Academy. My name is Michelle Long, and I'm glad that you're joining us today. I am a CPA and the owner of Long for Success. I'm the author of several different books. You can check those out on Amazon if you're interested. Co-host of the Ultimate Accounting Decon, an award-winning virtual conference for accountants and bookkeepers. Our next one's coming up in July if you'd like to join us for that. I'd also invite you to join my LinkedIn group. It's a great resource when you have questions, as well as the Intuit Community Forum. But the LinkedIn group is getting close to 60,000 members now. So if you're not a part of it, please join us. And I'm also thrilled to say not only am I a trainer for Intuit, but I'm now an international trainer for Intuit. I've had the privilege of not just going across the U.S. and various cities across Canada, but also to Australia and London, teaching other accountants and bookkeepers about QuickBooks Online. So I'm really glad to have you joining us today for this webinar on value pricing. You are eligible for CPE credit for this webinar, but you have to stay the whole time. The other thing is, in the middle of the webinar sometime, I'm not going to tell you when, I will provide a CPE keyword. I will say it a couple of 2 or 3 times, and you have to write down a keyword. If you miss the keyword, I'm sorry, I can't repeat it. You can't say, oh, you know, I had to go let my dogs out and I missed the keyword. You're going to have to listen and get that keyword, and then at the end of the webinar, you'll be prompted to enter the keyword, and then you'll get your certificate emailed to you within 14 days after today's training. So mark your calendar, wait a full 2 weeks or so, and then if you don't get your CPE, follow up. And then you keep that copy for your records, of course. If you need to download the course materials and the handouts, those are available at intuitacademy.com/materials. So all of these slides are available for you to download, so you can get those. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to go through and talk about value pricing versus hourly billing. We're going to summarize the benefits for us as accountants as well as our clients. We'll talk about some steps to implementing value pricing, talk about how to create packages of your standard services, implementing the use of the new wholesale pricing that's available for us with QuickBooks Online. We'll talk about how to determine your price levels, your ranges, understand how the results from the Intuit Average Billing Rate Survey apply, and talk to you about how you can find those and look at those. We're going to identify some initial clients to convert, and then also understand the importance of the clearly defined engagement letter. So we do have a lot of material to cover. I'll probably go faster on some of this stuff at the beginning so we can use a little more time on talking about packages and things like that a little bit later. But let's start by talking about what is value pricing. We all know what hourly billing
Michelle?
is. We've been doing it. Yeah.
Your screen is still paused, so I'm still seeing the title slide.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. There we go. Now you guys are with me. So they missed the little intro slides. That's not the end of the world, but thank you for telling me, you guys. Okay, and I've even got it on right here on my iPad, so I apologize for not looking and catching that. So hourly billing, we all know we've been doing that for years. It's been a tradition in the accounting industry forever, but unfortunately it's not a good tradition. Hourly billing really restricts us, especially now that we have new tools and new technologies that allow us to get the work done a lot faster. But hourly billing is where you just keep track of your time and then you bill by the hour based on the time you worked. And then there's discussion about value billing versus value pricing. And value billing is when you do it after the fact. You've already done the work, and then you kind of look at it and you say, what's the value, and you bill according to that. So it's after the fact. Whereas value pricing is you're setting your pricing up front and before the work is performed. So that's what we're talking about today, is doing value pricing. And so with value pricing, we're looking at the fees based on the value to our client, not just the number of hours. And this is where it's kind of hard, and it gets easier with experience. But right off the bat, you might have a hard time with this, and that's why we want to talk about ways to get started and things like that. But it does get a lot easier. But we want to think about what is the value that we're providing to that client. And one of the things we need to remember is not to underestimate the value of the benefits that we're providing. A lot of times I hear accountants or bookkeepers say, well, gosh, you know, the client can do this themselves. It's not very hard. They could do this themselves, I can't charge that much. And that's the wrong thing to be thinking about, because the client doesn't want to do it themselves. That's why they're coming to you. They want you to do it. They want you to take care of it. They don't want to worry about it. Yes, theoretically they could, but they don't want to. You're providing a service that's a big value to them. And the other thing that we need to keep in mind is we're not just selling our time. We're selling the knowledge, the experience, our innovation, our customer service. You're selling everything that you've got, all the tools that you've learned how to use with the bank feeds and QuickBooks Online, your years of experience. All of that is worth something. I mean, think about it. We all know undeposited funds, the big mistakes clients make, right? When you first come across undeposited funds and a problem with it, you're not sure what to do. You don't know how to fix it. It may take you 30 minutes or an hour to figure out what's going on and how do I fix it. But now that you've got that experience and that knowledge of how do I fix it, it may only take you 10 minutes now. So should you make less money now that you know that and now that you have that skills and that knowledge and that expertise? The other thing to keep in mind, now that we have all these tools available to us that make us more efficient, if we bill by the hour, we make less money. And that's not the way that it should work. So we really have to get away from the hourly billing and thinking about how long it takes us to do things and think about the value that we're providing to that client. And sometimes we don't realize it. Here was a good example where it really hit home for me, the value of something. I was having a Christmas party, and I had all these people over, like 30 family members over, and everything was going great. We had plenty of food, plenty of drink. Everybody's having a good time. And then something that's very embarrassing as the hostess, the toilet clogged. Oh, my goodness. So I run to the back room, and I get the phone, and I call a plumber, and the plumber says, well, it's going to be an extra fee because it's the weekend. We have a higher rate on the weekend. I said, I don't care. Please come now. So the guy came over. It only took him about 10 minutes. And I was like, I think it was like $115. And my mom was like, oh, my goodness, that's outrageous, $115 for 10 minutes of work. But, yeah, and my mom's like, you could have done that yourself. Yes, theoretically, we could have done that ourselves. But we didn't necessarily have the right tools. Maybe you need a snake or some kind of tool. We didn't necessarily have the right tools that we needed. We also didn't want to deal with it. We were in the middle of a party. We didn't want to do it. We wanted somebody else to do it. I was happy to pay him $115 to take care of that problem for me. And that's where we need to realize that, yeah, maybe our clients can do it. They don't want to do it. They're busy running their business. They're busy dealing with employees and trying to make sales and ordering product. They want you to deal with it. They want you to take care of it. So we really do provide a lot of value to these clients. We just need to remember that and not discount the value that we're providing. So now let's talk a little bit, too, about the benefits for the client. It's not all just about us, but the clients like it when we move to value pricing. And some people call it fixed fees. You can call it whatever you want, but the client then knows what the cost and the expectations are up front. They don't worry then about how you're spending your time or, oh, my goodness, she's charging me $85 an hour or $100 an hour. That's outrageous. When they're paying $500 a month. They don't worry about those things. They also feel better because they know that you understand their needs and their values. So it helps us to develop better customer loyalty, actually. And I mean, think about it from the client perspective. What do you buy or what do you purchase that you don't know what it's going to cost? I mean, even if you take your car in, let's say your car has a problem. You take your car into the mechanic and you say it's making a thumping sound. They say, well, we have to look and see what's wrong with it before we know how to fix it. And then they even call you and say, okay, here's an estimate of what the price is going to be. Do you want us to fix it or not? I mean, people want to know what the cost is. They don't want surprises. So customers don't like, our clients don't like hourly billing either. They like the value pricing as well. And for us, as I mentioned already, as we improve our efficiency and improve our profitability, it helps us overall. It helps our firm to be more profitable as well as customer loyalty. The clients like that. They like knowing what the fees are going to be. It also helps us to develop a better relationship with our clients. So overall, it's a win-win. It's a win for the clients and it's a win for you and your practice. So along with that impact on our client relationship, as we're getting away from doing data entry, so with the bank feeds that are available in QuickBooks Online as well as QuickBooks Desktop, but especially in QBO because it's all automated every night that's coming through, this is allowing us to get away from doing data entry. We're not doing that anymore. Why should we just sit and enter the checks and enter the credit card purchases when it's already there? So we're doing more data management and data analysis. And this is allowing us to provide a higher level of service to clients because we're not spending all this time getting the data in there. We now can be more of a trusted advisor with our clients. And one of the things that I was always frustrated with is when the clients would view me as just the bookkeeper or just the accountant, and they didn't really value what I was doing because I'm just doing data entry. I could hire some college kid to do that. Why should I pay you so much per hour to do data entry? So moving away from data entry is really great for us and for our clients all the way around. And again, it helps us to be that trusted advisor and really have that relationship with the client that a lot of us want and a lot of us need. So again, it's a win for our clients and it's a win for us. So how do we get in to start doing this? And this is where, you guys all recognize the importance of this, but it's how do we implement it? So let's start talking about how do we start moving to value pricing. And I broke it down into 3 basic steps. Now, I'm considering that most of you on this call are probably in a small firm or sole practitioners, on your own. In a larger firm, you're going to need to involve more. You need to have some committees and things like that. You're going to have more people involved in more consideration. So I broke it down just into 3 basic steps. You may need to add more depending on your situation. But first, we want to start by establishing packages, a package of our services. Then we need to determine our pricing. Then we need to evaluate. And this is a reiterative process. In other words, you're not going to just do it once and be done with it. You're going to start and you're going to set some packages and pricing. Then you're going to evaluate how are things going. Do we need to change things? Maybe we need to modify our packages or modify our pricing. You're going to keep going through this process, getting it better and better and better. As you get more experience with this, you'll get better, and you'll want to keep reevaluating and making changes. So let's start by talking about creating packages of your standard services. This is where you need to sit down and make a list of all the things that you do for your clients. What are the standard services that you provide? Entering checks, entering and paying bills, entering invoices, receiving payments, doing payroll for some clients, making a list of all the services that you do. In addition, reconciling, do you provide monthly statements for them? Do you do the sales taxes? Put down all these things that you do. And then let's try to break that down into 3 different packages. A basic package, a middle package, and a premium package. And why do we want 3 packages? You want at least 3. And the reason we want at least 3 packages is for a very important reason. There's a magic of 3. And a good example of this, you go look at any place, they have small, medium, and large, or they have the basic, the middle, and the premium package. And the reason is there's a magic of 3 because most people will choose that middle package. Here's a good example for you. Wendy's, Wendy's hamburgers and all that, and they had a single and a double on their menu. And they wanted to improve or increase the sales of the double burgers. And so, they asked, somebody, and they got some advice, what should we do to increase the sales of doubles? They added a triple to the menu. And the question was, what? We're trying to increase the sale of doubles. Well, when all I see on the menu is a single and a double, if I go into Wendy's and I order a double, I'm like, man, I'm really a pig. I don't want to order a double, so I'll just order a single. So when they added the triple to the menu, then all of a sudden, well, gosh, I could order a double. At least I'm not a pig and I'm not ordering a triple, right? So it increased the sales of the doubles a lot. Now, they didn't sell very many triple burgers, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was to sell more doubles, and that's what they did when they added a triple in there. So there's a magic of having 3 things that you're offering. The reason for that is the premium package, or the top of the line one, it sets the anchor. That's the highest. So for your clients, they may say, well, gosh, I don't want to pay for the premium package. That's more than I can afford. I'm looking for some value. If I go with the middle package, that gives me the most value for my money. And most clients are going to be accepting that middle one. So keep that in mind as you're creating this. Now, some people even go ahead and do 4 or 5 packages. So it's kind of up to you how you want to break it down, but you definitely want at least 3. So keep in mind, like, for example, on your basic package, you may have some clients that are very price sensitive. You know them. They're all really cheap. They don't want to pay, right? I could go get a college student to do this, right? So for those value-conscious clients, the ones that really want to keep the cost down, and with the economy the way that it is, maybe they need to keep the cost down. So in that situation, you may have the client doing a lot of the tasks. So maybe you have to do some training up front to teach them how to do that, and then you just come in possibly on a quarterly basis to review things like that. So your basic package might be the really lowest level of packages. Another thing I want to point out before we keep moving on here is not every client is a good client. If they are looking for the absolute cheapest package and they keep wanting to knock you down on the price and they're just looking for the lowest price, that's probably not a client you want. Because, you know, as soon as somebody else comes along with a lower price, they're going to drop you. There's no client, there's no loyalty there. You don't want clients that are just interested in the lowest price. And just because your competition is charging a low price that's not reasonable, don't let them set your prices. You need to keep in mind that you need to make your own prices based on the value of the services that you're providing and the benefits that you're providing. So keep that in mind. Not every client is a good client, but there are some clients that are struggling, so there might need to be a basic package to help some of those. Then the middle package is going to be the one that is the most common services that you provide. This is going to be the one that most of your clients will choose. So it's the most common that you do. So it might be, you know, all the monthly bookkeeping, reconciling the packages, or reconciling the bank accounts and the credit card accounts, and things like that. So it's the one that you do the most often. The premium package, that's where maybe you provide them with additional reports or some analysis on the reports, some ratio analysis about how things are going. It's like that. Maybe you have priority service and response time. You know, if you send us an email or a call, we'll get back to you within 4 hours. So your premium package is going to be a higher price, and just like the triples, not that many people may buy the premium package, but it helps increase the sales of your middle package. And the other thing to keep in mind is once you start talking about packaging with your clients and giving them options, you've changed the discussion away from do I want to do business with you or not, to how do I want to do business with you? Which package do I want to choose? Which one's going to be right for me? So you want to give them these choices because it's going to help. It helps them to get value and stuff. Let's look at a couple of examples here of how you might set up some different packages. And these are just really ballpark examples just to get you started as we're going along. Also, if you've got some questions, go ahead and be typing those questions in there. And so I see a lot of you have been talking about the course materials, and they're providing those links, so that's great. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some of these sample levels here. So, for example, let's say we set up the silver level. And in this situation, your clients might be going ahead and doing all the entries. They're accepting the transactions that are downloaded from the bank accounts. But you're coming in on a monthly basis to make sure the bank reconciliations are done and just kind of overview things. And you might have email support for them when they have questions. Then you might add onto a gold level where you're doing the monthly reconciliation, but maybe you have a lot of payables to deal with. Maybe it's, you know, a client that has lots of invoices that need to be paid, and so you're going to do the AP management. The client might still be doing the invoicing and receiving payments from the customers. You're going to do it the AP side and email support as well. So that might be one example. And then you might have the platinum level where you're doing everything for the client. You know, all the monthly bank recs, AP management, plus you're doing the receivables for them, payroll up to 5 employees. Actually, for a lot of you, that might be your gold level where you're doing everything for them because that might be what you do. So this is where you need to go through, list out the services you provide, try to chunk it out into different packages that you can use for these clients, and going through and thinking about your current clients and what you're doing for them and stuff. And this is where you can think about how can I differentiate? What are some additional value that I can provide to my clients? So I've got my basic services for my clients. What are some other things? And a couple of things to think about is the response time. Like we've got email support on there. What type of support are you going to offer to your clients? Maybe the silver is they don't get support. Maybe the basic package, if they need additional support, that's outside the scope of the engagement, and you want to charge them for that. Maybe the platinum level is you give them unlimited calls and phone support and email support and things like that. So this is where you've got to go through and kind of think about the differences there. And it might be what's your response time for returning calls or returning emails. Is it 24 hours? Or at the platinum level, it might be, you know, that they get a return call or message, whatever, within 4 hours. So the support and the response time is something to think about. And one of the things I hear people say is, gosh, Michelle, If I tell them we're going to have unlimited support with email and phone calls, that's just going to be crazy. I can't deal with that. And what you'll find is when you have these support options for your clients, most of the time, if it's a new client, you're going to have more support for them up front during the first month, and then less the second month, because you're training them and you're answering all their questions on what they need to do and things like that. But as the client gets trained, then they don't need to contact you as much. So instead of, a lot of contact the first month, you'll have less contact the second month. And then the third month, it might be just 1 or 2 questions throughout the month. And then as you go along, they don't need that much help. So, yeah, the support is usually a situation where there's more up front, and then after that, there's not as much. And I've found that most people won't abuse that. However, we need to lay the ground rules. When do you contact me? When is it emergency? How do I want you to contact me? So for example, I'll tell my clients, look, save up until you have 3 or 4 or 5 questions, and then send me an email or let's schedule a time to talk about those questions. Don't call me every time a question pops into your head. And I had this one client, his name was David. Bless his heart, he was trying so hard. But every time a question would come in his head, he'd pick up the phone and call me. Well, first of all, I don't like phone calls. I would prefer email. That way I can respond when I want to. And so, he would call and I'd say, David, write it down, send me an email, and then we'll schedule time to talk about it. And I had to keep saying that, and then I finally just stopped answering the phone. You've got to set the rules. You've got to train these clients. You also need to tell them when's an emergency. If you tell them, hey, these are my normal business hours, 8 to 5 or whatever. Here's my cell phone number in an emergency. You've got to specify what's an emergency, because an emergency to you may not be the same thing as an emergency to them. When is it okay for them to call you nights or weekends, or is it okay? You've got to lay these ground rules and think about these things in addition to setting up your packages, so that your clients know how to work with you, and it's very clear about all that stuff. So let me see now. We've got a few questions here. Let me see if I can look at some of these questions, and we'll get some of those. People want to know about the link to the recording. Yes, we will share the link to the recording after the fact, so you'll have that available. If the client knows the hourly billing rates up front, then what's different about the value pricing when they know up front? I mean, in both of these cases, prices are known beforehand. Okay, so what we're talking about, let's say your hourly billing rate is $100 an hour. Let's say you've been doing things in the past. It's taking you 10 hours to do the work each month. But now you're implementing the online bank feeds with QuickBooks Online that are coming through automatically every night. You're implementing some other tools that are making things faster for you. So instead of taking 10 hours a month, now maybe it's only taking you 2 or 3 hours a month. So if I'm billing $100 an hour, at 10 hours a month, I'm making $1,000 a month. Now that I'm faster and I'm smarter and I'm more efficient and I've implemented tools, now it's only taking me, let's say, 3 hours a month. Should I get $300 a month now? That's not fair. I mean, you really should keep getting the $1,000 a month, because that's the value that you're providing to the client. And along with that, now you've got more time, so you can help the client with, hey, how are your margins doing? How's your analysis doing? You can help by giving them a quick call or a quick email or adding value services to them, whether it's, hey, did you know your gross profit margin's going down? Maybe you need to adjust your prices. So we're moving away from that. The other thing is, when we're talking about hourly price, a client, they don't, a lot of times if they hear $100 an hour, that brings that whole questioning. Are you really working on my stuff? Are you being efficient? Are you looking at your email or taking calls while you're working on mine? How come it took you 10 hours? Why didn't you get that done in 8 hours? It's the whole negative connotation of hourly billing, and we can get away from that. When the client knows it's $1,000 a month, you'll get the work done, they don't worry about those little things like that. So it helps to have a better relationship there as well. Somebody else just asked, do you create these packages and then post them on your website? And that's totally up to you. Hi, Don. Glad you're joining us today. Some people are posting these packages on their website, so the clients know them up front. I'm going to share one of those with you here in just a second. Some people, though, don't want to put that on their website, so it's your decision. Some people may have a PDF that they create that they can send out to the client and talk about it with them that way. So it's up to you whether you want to put them on your website or not. That's kind of your choice, whichever one you want to do. Can we set up a help us find you the right price based on questions? Yes, that's a great idea, Mohammed. Which one of these services do you use? So yeah, having some questions. And I usually like to go through the questions with the client so that I get to know their business a little better, to ask them how their business operates, how you do your invoicing and receiving payments. Are you receiving payments via Intuit Payment Network? Are you using merchant services? How are you receiving payments? You may want to talk through that, but yes, definitely you could set that up to have questions and things like that. Do you create multiple packages within each level, so that a company with a few transactions might use Silver A and then Silver B, one with extensive needs, Silver D? You can do that if you want to. It just kind of depends on your situations. One of the things that I always suggest that you do is you put an asterisk by all of these that say, like prices start at $500 a month, so that if they have X number of transactions, maybe they have 100 transactions a month, it might be 500. But if they have 1,000 transactions a month, then yes, it should be a higher rate. So I like to see an asterisk on there that says, prices start at X amount per month. Then the other thing to keep in mind is you've got to reevaluate these things, because as your clients grow, the prices may need to grow as well. So just because you set a package price up front, you need to reevaluate perhaps on a quarterly basis, every 6 months, at least every year, and you should be increasing your rates every single year. The inflation keeps going up, everything goes up, you should increase your rates. It doesn't have to be a lot, but at least a few percentage points every single year, so that all of a sudden you're not 5 years out and you're gosh, my rates are way too low. I now need to do a big increase to get them back up to where they should be. It's better to do a small incremental increase every single year. Okay, so let me go ahead and talk about a few more things here, and then we'll get back into some more questions. First of all, let's type in that CPE, or write down the CPE keyword. You'll provide it later. The CPE keyword is nickel, N-I-C-K-E-L, nickel. I have a nickel in my pocket along with a dime and a quarter. Nickel. Okay? So if you were multitasking, write down nickel, please. Nickel, nickel, nickel. I'm going to say it 1 or 2 more times. Nickel, okay, N-I-C-K-E-L. And I'm looking at some of the questions here, too. All right, so yeah, a lot of these, some people are having great comments. You've touched the pain points. Oops, it just moved there. Transactions grow, we talked about that. A rate sheet, yes, having a rate sheet is a good idea. Lori says she already has a rate sheet. Very good. Is keyword capitalization important? I don't think the capitalization matters here, but capitalize in for that keyword for nickel. Okay, so type nickel in there. Okay, so let's go ahead now and let's talk about something else to take into consideration. When it comes to QuickBooks Online, they now have something new called wholesale pricing. And this is for accountants and bookkeepers, where we can save 30% for our clients every single month for the life of their subscription. So this is where if you click on that link or type in tinyurl.com/QBO wholesale, it'll take you to that. This is free for us. And you've seen special promotions where they'll have 30% off or 50% off. And a lot of times those might be just for the first 6 months or for the first 12 months. This is for an ongoing basis. As long as your client is your client, as long as you have that subscription, there's a 30% discount. And this is on new clients only. So if you've got existing clients right now, this can't apply. I know a lot of accountants and bookkeepers have been saying to Intuit, we want to change that. So it could change in the future. But right now, it's only for new clients, and it's on Essentials and Plus. You get billed for your clients. So you'll get that bill for all your clients all on one bill. And this is where, so if you look at Online Plus, your price is about $28 a month. So a lot of accountants and bookkeepers, and this is true globally, are incorporating that price into their services. So the monthly price that you're charging might be $1,000 per month or $500 per month, and it includes the price of QBO. And I have some people who say, oh my gosh, well, why would I want to pay that, $28 a month? For $28 a month, you're not doing the data entry anymore. You're getting the automated date fee. the automatic bank fees every night. You're getting those transactions imported. For $28 a month, you're not sending files back and forth to the client. You're not worried about, is the client using QuickBooks, 2002, and how am I going to work with them? You're not worried about what version the client has. You're not worried about if you get a file from the client, did they cancel the accountant's copy? Did they restore the right backup copy? You avoid all those problems, all those issues. It saves us so much time and trouble. It is well worth the $28 per month in a lot of ways, because it's improving your efficiency. It's saving you all those headaches. You and the client can both be in there together working. So a lot of accountants are taking this wholesale pricing. They're incorporating that into their prices, into their packaging. So one of your package benefits is it includes QuickBooks Online, that they don't have to pay for that. They don't have to buy QuickBooks and have it on their computer at all. And if you're doing everything for the client, you can give them reports-only access so they can log in and see any report that they want to see, but yet you may not want them to mess anything up. So you can restrict their access. Or you can allow them to enter the invoices on their phone, and it's automatically updating in QuickBooks Online. There's just so many benefits. And now this wholesale pricing makes it so much easier to incorporate this into our monthly fees, our monthly packaging, or quarterly, or whatever you choose to do. So I think this is great. I'm glad to see that Intuit has finally done that for us. So if you haven't signed up for it yet, go ahead and sign up for that. It is free for us as accounting professionals. Then build that into your fee structure. Now, here's an example of how can I go through and kind of start determining my price level. And here's an example you'll see of a price list that Joellen has put together. And she said that I could share that. Review the annual fees of your current clients. Take a look at some clients that you do kind of the same work for on a regular basis. And when I say regular, it could be monthly, it could be quarterly, or it could be annually. And think about those shoebox clients that you get at year end. Your shoebox clients, oh my goodness, wouldn't it be great if you had that bank feed set up where you're getting that data all year long? It's coming in automatically to where you just have to go through and do the accepting and matching of any transactions, or just accepting it all. It's going to help tremendously if you get some of them set up. But look at your annual fees of your current clients, those clients that you're doing the same amount for. Go through and divide that by 12. What would be their monthly? That way you're taking into consideration that, well, we only do certain things quarterly, like the sales taxes or the payroll taxes. Look at what is it on an annual basis. Divide it down into a monthly basis. And we're getting some ballparks here to get us started. Also, look at the results of the billing rate survey, Intuit's average billing rate survey, and let that help you to get some guidelines and get some insight so that your rates are not too low. Because that is one of the biggest mistakes that I will see people make, is they set their rates too low. And we don't want to do that. Again, don't discount the value that we're providing, and let's not set our rates too low. And I'll talk more about that billing rate survey in just a minute. But then go ahead and determine what is the basic price level with parameters. In other words, you see the little asterisk next to bookkeeping services? You should say down there at the bottom, pricing may vary depending upon the complexity of the work or a large amount of transactions or a large volume of transactions. For example, one client, when they have an invoice, it may be 1 or 2 lines. Maybe they did the weekly lawn service, and maybe they did some fertilizer application. So it might be just 2 lines. You may not have another client that has an invoice where they're selling, lots of inventory. So it might be a 20-line invoice as opposed to a 1 or 2 line invoice. You may have some clients that have inventory, which is more complex than the service-based businesses. You may have clients that have 1,000 transactions per month, and another client that has 5,000 or 10,000 transactions per month. So this is where some of you mentioned that you might have a rate sheet, and you might need to go through and have different levels, or you might have a range. So the monthly fees may range from $300 a month up to $1,000 a month. And this is where, though, you've got to kind of get an idea of what the pricing should be, to where you can say, okay, for a general service-based business like a lawn and landscape company, most of the time it's going to be about $500. So you've got a pretty good feel for that. You may be able to say, hey, for a company that's got inventory, it's closer to $1,000 a month. This comes with experience. And so it comes from also reviewing those annual fees of your current clients. Look at the client. Look at the type of industry they're in. Consider the volume of the activity and what you're doing. This is going to take some time to sit down and think these things through for your business and your clients. But remember, this is where we want to just get started at this point. We're just getting started, and you want to pick just a couple of clients, and then you can start rolling this out to all clients and stuff. So you're trying to go through here and just get a feel for it. But you'll notice here on her, she's listed what she's doing for her monthly bookkeeping. She says reconcile it to 2 bank accounts and 2 credit cards, and then she says add $50 for each additional bank or credit card. But yet again, it's going to depend on the volume of transaction. So you may have, different levels in there as well. These are ideas to kind of get you started, but you always want to include that asterisk there based on the complexity and the volume, and take that into consideration when you're looking at the client. Okay? And somebody's asking, where do we find the results of the billing rate survey? And Intuit, I have Donna and Christy, they're going to type those in there for you. They'll share that link for you on the billing rate surveys. Here's one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and I'll show you some more here in just a second, but the billing rate survey, when asked, Intuit's done this survey for many years, every couple of years. I did it for them in 2013, and one of the things that we're seeing over the years is more and more people are going to a fixed billing rate. You're seeing more and more accounting professionals that are going to a fixed billing rate or fixed fees. One of the other things that I thought was interesting, let me go over here and share this with you. When we look, and Intuit can share, they're going to share the links with you, but here's one of the blog posts, changes in the average billing rate. When we look at the hourly rate for the changes between 2009 to 2013, it's really kind of stayed the same or even declined a little bit. So the hourly rates are actually going down a little bit, and this is my surmise, what I think. I think part of this is the economy has been hurting people, and it's pressuring our fees on a downward basis. So hourly rates have been going downward. Guess what's been going on with fixed rates? They've been increasing from $251 in 2009 up to $469. More and more people are starting to use fixed fees. And not only that, but you don't get the pushback from, oh my gosh, your hourly rate is too high. The clients might say, oh, I'm paying $469 a month for my accounting and bookkeeping. I'm happy. So the average fees for fixed is going up. So I thought that was kind of interesting to notice. Not only are more accounting professionals switching to the fixed fees or value pricing, but those rates are going up compared to, whoops, I got to get back to the right one here, compared to hourly rates have had downward pressure on them. Now, these hourly rates and the billing rate surveys and things like that, that is just to give you an idea. Right now, are you too low compared to the market averages? Do not just use those things and go by them, because you may have more experience, more expertise. These aren't scientific surveys, so they could be inaccurate. Just as a sample guideline, just to let you know, my rates are way too low, because I see a lot of accountants and bookkeepers whose rates are way too low. If you've been charging $50 an hour, your rates are way too low. You're really not taking into consideration the experience and expertise and knowledge you have. Now, I'm assuming that you have the experience and expertise, that you didn't just come over from doing something else and say, I'm going to be a bookkeeper. But hopefully you've got that education or that background or that experience to be doing it. But use those surveys just to give you some guidelines to get going. Here's some of those fixed fees that I had mentioned and how they are increasing over the years, how they've gone up quite a bit. Now, we need to ask more questions in the next survey, more details about these fixed fees to get it to be more meaningful for comparison purposes. We don't know, exactly the types of clients that were involved or the types of services that were provided, average, so these averages are not statistically accurate at all. They're just general guidelines just to give you an idea. So how can we get started on some of this? First of all, let's look at 3 initial clients that we might want to convert. I mentioned, look for those that you have the regular services. Think clients that you're doing the same things for on a regular basis, monthly, quarterly, twice a year, or annually. Also, look for clients that are a good candidate for QuickBooks Online. It is saving us so much time and improving our efficiency of working with our clients that I think candidates for QBO are good ones to put on the fixed fees or the value pricing. And the reason for that is we're working in the same file. Your client can be doing invoicing and estimates from their smartphone or from their tablet or from their computer. You could be in there doing the reconciliations and things like that, paying the bills or whatever. You both can be in there working together. Not only that, but those transactions are downloaded every night automatically. You don't have to remember to tell it to update the transactions. The bank feed is automatic, and the bank feed is automatic on not just your checking accounts, but also credit card accounts, PayPal accounts, things like that. So I would look for candidates that are good clients that are good candidates for QBO. And along with that, I want to mention I have some upcoming webinars as part of this Success in the Cloud series where we talk about who is QuickBooks Online right for. We go over a whole hour of identifying which QuickBooks is right for my client, things like that, talk about the differences, talk about converting to from the desktop to QuickBooks Online, all of that. So there's lots of webinars coming up that will help you if you need some more help in that area. Now, another thing that we want to talk about is looking for clients that don't have complex transactions. Remember, we're getting started here. We want to start with easy clients, not the hard clients. You want to start with clients that don't have a whole lot of line items or inventory on every single transaction. You also want to look for those clients that keep business and personal separate, because when our clients commingle their funds and they have business and personal together, which we keep telling them not to do that. We tell them to get separate accounts, but some of them still do that. That requires more work and more intervention on our part. It requires finding out what was this for, was it business, was it personal. It just requires more time, and it's not as efficient. So remember, this is where we're just getting started. We're identifying some free clients to just get started doing this. Later, you can work on adding the more complex clients, the clients that are a little harder, and we still want to get our clients to keep business and personal separate. Have them open up a separate bank account or a separate credit card. If they go through, Office Depot and they buy some office supplies as well as school supplies, have them ring it up as two separate transactions to make things a lot easier. But these are the kind of things to look for. Also, look for a client that you have a good relationship with them. Some of your clients, especially some that you've had for a long time, it's going to be easy to talk to them and say, hey, client, I want to switch to this new value pricing. Here's what I want to do. If I look at your fees over the year, this is what it comes out to be on a monthly basis. We're going to switch. We're going to convert. We're going to start doing this. I want you to give me feedback. We're going to reevaluate each month or each quarter how things are going. And you always should be evaluating these things on a regular basis, but it's helpful when you're getting started to do it with a client that you already have a good relationship with. So those are some ideas to help you get going there. Now, I had another question here. What's the best way to handle a client that's insistent on using a different accounting software for what I use? And you know what? That's a great question, Sarah, and it's up to you. Let's say that client has been using, QuickBooks Desktop, and you want to switch them to QuickBooks Online. Well, one of the things that I found is share that sample file with them. In QBO, there's a sample company file that you can get access to. Share that with them. Go in there and talk to them. Let them see how that could work. Maybe even set up a trial for them to let them see their own data in there. Because one of the things that I found is when you talk to your clients about something, it's not the same as showing it to them. A good example of that, I had a client that I wanted her to do remote access. And she's like, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. So I had come on site to do something. And then at the end of our session, I said, okay, Cheryl, let's go into the kitchen here. You bring your laptop, and I've got my laptop. I want to show you how this works. And I sat there right next to her at the kitchen table, and I invited her to do Join Me, which is the absolute easiest when you have clients that are tech challenged. Join.me, Join.me, is the absolute best for some of those clients. So I showed her how it worked and how easy it was. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're right, that's wonderful, that's awesome. I haven't been on site to see her since. Now, I still talk to her quite a bit. We still have a great relationship, but I don't have to drive over there anymore. I don't go on site anymore. So I had to show her that. So if your client has been using the desktop version or using another version or another accounting program, show them. That's the best way. Set up a Join Me remote session. Go through it with them. Let them play with it. Let them see it. Talk to them about it. And that alleviates their fears, their anxieties, and things like that. So I found the best way is not talking to them about it, but showing them about it, and then talking as you're showing them how it works, how easy it is, and things like that. Somebody else says somebody uses Team Viewer. Yeah, there's lots of things that you could use. There's Go to My PC, Log Me Anywhere, PC Anywhere, Team Viewer. I like Join.me because it's free, and it's the absolute easiest one that I've found for clients that are tech challenged. You tell them type Join.me into the URL, where you type in a website, type it in, hit enter. hit the orange triangle, the circle, the orange circle there, and then give me the code that looks like a phone number. So it's really quick, it's really easy, but there's a lot of them out there. So yes, you can use different things there. Somebody else says, would you charge more for a client who's using desktop than online? Actually, or one who's insistent on transferring files? Yes, Don, I would, because if they're insistent on transferring files back and forth, that's cutting down on your productivity and your efficiency. That's other stuff that you have to deal with. So yes, I would say that their fees need to be higher versus QBO because you don't have any of those problems or issues when you're working in QuickBooks Online. So I would charge more for desktop clients. Okay, so good questions here. I'm trying to scroll through some of the others. What is the most safe system for sharing software? I like QuickBooks Online for using the same software. So I think QuickBooks Online is more safe in a lot of ways. It's safer than the own computer in your own office or in your client's office. Intuit spends millions and millions of dollars on data security and securing their data centers and all that, so their security is actually better and safer than your own desktop. So I like QuickBooks Online. Okay, let's see. Oh, he says, no, I mean TeamViewer in those. I think all of those are fairly secure. I don't know without getting in and looking at it. But when I'm doing the remote stuff, usually when I'm doing that, I'm not looking at sensitive financial information. So that's something, if you're dealing with looking at credit card numbers or Social Security numbers, then you might need to worry about that a little bit better. Okay, great questions there. Let me see if we got a couple of other questions here. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. We got a lot of questions here about the slides, and yes, they're going to take care of that. I have a number of really small clients. There's a wholesale pricing available for the basic QBO package. Deanna, it's not available for Simple Start. It's Essentials and Plus. So, but Simple Start or Easy Start if you're in a different country, QBO Simple Start is only $13 a month, and you could look for a special there. I saw Office Depot a week or two ago. Office Depot had a special where it was free for the first year. So if you're going to go that route, look for some specials. Intuit has specials all the time, like I said, with a 30% off or 50% off. So you might want to watch for specials on those Essentials or Simple Start or Easy Start if you need that. Would you cover on-site work compared to remote work? I feel much comfortable doing all this work from my home office. Absolutely. Reza, one of the things that I've discovered is more and more of us are doing the work from our home office and not going on site anymore, especially because you can get receipts or documents from your clients with a file sharing service. So yeah, a lot of us are doing that, and if you do need to go on site, people are charging a premium or an on-site fee. I used to, back when I did go on site, I used to say the minimum, if I come on site, the minimum fee is going to be a 2-hour consult. And, some people charge a travel fee depending on if you're in the cities and it takes longer to get places, or if rural and you have to travel farther to get there. But yes, a lot of people charge more for on-site, and that helps too when the clients see it can be less. And once they see how you can work together with them in QuickBooks Online, I found that they're a lot more open to that, especially when they realize that they have access to all the reports whenever they want them, and they can enter things on their phone. If they want to enter an invoice on their phone, they can do that if they need to as well. Okay, great questions there. Let me see if we got any other ones here. What is the file sharing service you're talking about with client receipt? So one of the things that I do with the clients, they always have their phones with them, right? They have a smartphone most of the time now. Train them to take a picture of that receipt. Whenever they buy something for business, bam, take a picture of it. Because the IRS and the CRA in Canada and stuff, they will accept those digital images now as a receipt. So have them take a picture of that receipt, and then periodically, perhaps once a week, plug their phone in, they take all the pictures of the receipts, and they save them to a particular folder. And you may want to have your folders by month, but then you can use a file sharing service like Dropbox, SugarSync, Box, Google Drive, iCloud, ShareFile, LeapFile. There's a whole bunch of file sharing services. And you don't have to worry about the security as much when it's just a receipt because there's no sensitive financial information. So Dropbox, all those, they all have free services available too, like Google Drive and them. They all will give you a couple of gigabytes free. So the client can save those receipts into that folder, and you share that folder so that you have access to those receipts as well. Makes a great way to get that information from there. Do not ever put a QBW QuickBooks Desktop. Don't put that working company file in a file sharing service like Dropbox. It will cause data problems. Okay, so there's a few things that will help you there as well. I'm going to talk about the engagement letter, and then I'll have some more time for questions again in just a minute. So keep typing your questions in, but I want to go ahead and make sure we talk about the engagement letter as well, because this is really important. It's very important that you have an engagement letter, a letter of understanding, whatever you want to call it, because we want to clearly define the services and the support that's included in your monthly fee. And this is a great tool to make sure that we're clearly communicating with the client as well what's included, what exactly are we doing. That way you need to identify what are possible add-on services. For example, let's say you've got the monthly accounting, bookkeeping, and all this stuff, but then the client decides to get a bank loan. Well, preparing documents or doing things to help them to prepare for a bank loan might be outside the scope of work, so you'd want to make sure include that. If they need cash flow planning and forecasting, that might be outside your basic monthly fee services. If they need, emergency stuff on the weekends, do you want that to have to be an additional fee, or is that included with your premium package? So you want to kind of go through and set up a menu of here's my basic services and my basic packages. Here's my add-on or a la carte, if you think about it that way. You guys are all familiar with, menus. So you're creating a menu of your services. What's included in your standing packages? How can you bundle things? How could you include training and setup with a basic package? Or is that a separate a la carte thing? These are things to go through and kind of write them out on paper or type them up in Word and play with it, coming up with your menu of services, if you will. You want to make sure that you clarify what's included and what's excluded, what's an additional add-on service. And this, again, is a great way to communicate with your client. You also need to communicate with the client if there's certain key things that you need. Like, let's say one of the things is you promise a turnaround by XYZ date, or you promise that their monthly stuff will be all reconciled and good to go by the 5th work day of the month, or whatever it is. That's contingent upon maybe you getting the receipts from them or you getting the information you need. You may need to put some of that stuff in there as well. What is the stuff that the client has to do in order for you to meet your services and to meet your deadlines and things like that? Now, you should have errors and omissions insurance. You should have insurance to cover you against if you do things wrong, things like that. Most of the insurance providers will provide you with a sample engagement letter or with a template that you can use. So reach out to your insurance company for a template that you can use and customize for your own. Then also, you want to include details about the payments. How are you going to get paid from your client? We don't wait until after the fact anymore. You want to be billing up front, just like lawyers bill a retainer up front and you work off of that. You want to set up some automated payments. So you want to make sure that you're getting paid automatically. So you may set it up to where it automatically does the payment at the beginning of the month or on the 10th day of the month, whatever you and the client work out. But make sure that you've identified that and you get it set up so it's automated. The other thing that you might want to consider in your packages, and for good clients, instead of a monthly payment, you might want to give them the option to do it weekly or maybe twice a month. You can negotiate that with your clients if you want to. If they need to spread it out on a weekly basis to help with cash flow, that might be something that you could offer as an additional benefit for your clients. Then also, you want to make sure that you include the provision to reevaluate this on a regular basis. We aren't going to just set this up and forget about it, especially when you're new and you're moving over to value pricing and fixed fees and things like that. You need to reevaluate this on a regular basis. Monthly might be too short because months can vary, and especially if your client is seasonal and things like that. You need to take those things into consideration. Also, you need to consider whether the client is growing. Are they a rapid growth client, or are they a pretty stable client, pretty consistent? Are they seasonal business? All of these things you need to take into consideration and reevaluate on a regular basis, perhaps quarterly, perhaps twice a year. At a minimum, once a year. You need to be reevaluating this, and every single year you should be increasing your fees or your prices. Increase them on an annual basis. It doesn't have to be a lot, but at least, 2%, 3%, 5%, because the cost of living keeps going up, things keep going up, and you don't want to get behind. Okay, so what I've seen a lot of people say is, gosh, I realize now my rates are way too low. I need to increase my fees 25%. Your clients are not going to like that. So get the clients used to having rates go up every year. That's what other businesses do. That's what we should do as well. Okay, so let me look at some of the questions we have here. Not sure everyone understands. They can scroll the questions that have asked and answered so that they can see them. Okay, you guys can scroll up and down through there to see the questions and the answers and things like that. The ability to photo a receipt, is there a way to automatically send that into QuickBooks? You can't automatically do it, but you can attach documents in both the desktop version and QuickBooks Online. So you've got a folder of those receipts, and you can attach that to that transaction in QuickBooks. It's not automatic, though. You have to attach it. Unless you're using an app, there are some apps for like Concur that will help with some of that stuff, but you need to attach it yourself there. Okay, let me see a couple of these other ones here. When speaking with a customer service rep using the wholesale QBO, we own the company file and not the client. What are your thoughts about this? Okay, so when you set up the wholesale pricing, you are the master admin, not the client. If the client decides to leave you, or if the client goes out of business, you can take them off of your subscription so that you're not there anymore. If the client decides to leave you and go to another accountant, you can transfer the master admin to the client at that time. So it's not a problem. You can take them off. You can transfer the master admin and take them off of your wholesale subscription whenever you need to. So you just have to make sure that you kind of pay attention to that. Can I provide a sample engagement letter? Check with your insurance company for a sample engagement letter. There used to be some out there on the Intuit website, but they rearranged the website and they updated it, and I don't have the link for that at this time. Just Google engagement letters, accountant engagement letters, bookkeeper engagement letters. I'm sure you'll find lots of engagement letters out there. But the best thing to do is to talk to your insurance company and see if they have one, because you want to make sure that you're involved with that. Very secure file sharing sites for sensitive data. Janine, that's a very good question. Share file, Leap file, those two are very secure client portals. Share file, S-H-A-R-E, file, F-I-L-E, or Leap file, L-E-A-P file. Those are affordable, secure client portals. When it comes to some of the other ones like Dropbox or Google Drive or things like that, I am not positive about their security level, especially when you upload and download that information. So that's something that you'd want to check into. But I know ShareFile and LeapFile are secure portals for accounting professionals that are affordable. Okay. How do you make the packages appear as professional as the accepted hourly rates and not look like a burger menu? This is a new area for client, and it makes sense, but may not be viewed correctly by clients. That's where, Lori, you may have your basic menu. So you have your basic menu, and you may have a couple of add-on services or a la carte if you want to. All of them you should have a little asterisk by them so that it doesn't get overwhelming. And the little asterisk may say, this may vary depending on the complexity of your accounting needs as well as the volume of your activity. So you may have a complex menu that you look at, but you may not present the complex to your client. They keep the simple to the client with that little asterisk on there where you could talk about it more. So you're right. You want to make sure that you keep it clear and concise for the client, but then you may have more details that you have available. Okay, let's see. We've got a couple of other questions here. Somebody else uses Smart Vault and FileZilla for file transfer, and yeah, that's great too. Okay, let's kind of summarize here, and then I'll take a look at a couple of other questions, but we are getting close to our time here. So let's go through and summarize. Hopefully I've given you a good understanding of value pricing and some of the benefits, and we talked about some steps to start implementing it, how to start creating some of those packages of your standard services. We talked about implementing the use of wholesale pricing for QuickBooks Online, how to determine some price levels or ranges. We also talked about the Intuit billing rate survey and how that can apply to value pricing. We identified how to identify some initial clients to convert, as well as understand the importance of that engagement letter. The engagement letter is critical, not just for communicating with the client, but also to protect you in the event of any misunderstandings or things like that. So you really should have an engagement letter with your clients, as well as, you know, just because a lot of your insurance company or your insurance providers may provide you with that. Okay, you're going to get a little thing where you're going to have to provide your CPE keyword. You'll get a pop-up that's going to ask you to provide that CPE keyword. You'll get a pop-up survey. You'll answer that survey and hit enter or submit. So I'll let you do that. And let's see, as we're going through here, okay, you're entering that. Let's see if we've got a couple of other questions while you're answering the CPE keyword. Some advice on handling clients who want me to handle both business and personal. Does anyone do best, or is it best to stay away from personal? Janine, there's no reason you can't do the personal from them. I would charge them just like it's a business. I would set up 2 separate companies or 2 files, or you might consider using classes. It just depends on the situation, but you can definitely do personal as well. For firms using T-sheets, if they want to shift to value-based pricing, will there be any problem now that they've invested in the app? No, that shouldn't make any difference. Just because they're using T-sheets or they're using an app, your pricing is separate from that, so that shouldn't be a problem. You can do that. Engagement letters are important as you need to cover yourself, as well as defining the scope of services and responsibilities for both you and your client. Absolutely, Kathleen, they are very important for protecting both parties, both the client and the accountant. Let's see here. Let's see what else we have. What is the keyword? I'm sorry, I can't provide you the keyword. I can't do that at this time. And how do we set up the auto payments? You can go through that. If you accept merchant services, there's usually an option that you can go in there and do a recurring transaction through merchant services. Okay, did you guys all get your question or your CPE question answered? If so, I was going to ask you, yeah, there we go. I want to make sure to remind you about some other upcoming webinars that we have. If you'd like to join me for the Success in the Cloud series, that's a great one. A lot of free webinars coming up that I'd like you to join me for some of those, sponsored by Intuit Academy. Then also upcoming, we have Appify the Processes. We'll talk about some different apps that integrate with QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. Ultimate Accounting Decon's coming up as well. So if you want to join me for some of those things, that would be great. I do see that we are over the time limit. So for those of you that need to jump off, thank you very much for joining me today. Glad to have you on this webinar with me. I will look through some of the other questions here and see if there's some other things that I can answer in the next few minutes. What insurance company would you recommend for errors and omissions insurance? There's a lot of them out there. Check with organizations that you might belong to. For example, the AIPD, they get special group rates and things like that. So if you're a member of a group or an organization, check with those because I think it does vary based on city and state, which ones are available in different parts of the country. So check with your any organizations that you're in. This was a great webinar and will help with my rate sheet. Thank you. Well, thank you, Lloyd, for joining us. Very glad to have you here. Very nice. Does QBO support brokerage accounts so that clients can be prepared, clients' financials? QBO does not support brokerage accounts at this point. If you're talking about like stock brokerage accounts and things like that, it will support bank accounts and credit card accounts, things where you're getting those transactions through. So I hope that helps. My first webinar definitely will not be my last. Well, good, Charlene. Thank you for doing it. Webinars are a great way to learn from the convenience of your own home office or wherever you might be. Great. Somebody else said they did not hear a keyword. Well, I said it a bunch of times, so I'm sorry you missed that keyword. But you know what? You can join these other 3 webinars to get free CPE as well. Okay, very good. See if we got any other burning questions in here. Let's see, I'm scrolling through some of these questions. Can you get a backup of your QBO file? Don't send QBO. Okay, so you can't get a backup of your QBO file. There's no need to, because let's say your hard drive crashes. You don't need to restore a backup or anything. You just got to go get another computer or tablet and log into QBO. The data's all still there. And when I was talking about sending files, you can send QuickBooks files through share file, things like that, using a backup or a portable file. Do not put the QBW working company file in one of those file sharing services. It causes data corruption. So don't put the desktop working company file in Dropbox, SugarSync, or any of those share file services. Okay? Where can we see this recorded webinar? It should be available on Intuit Academy. I'm not positive when that will be available. But you know what? Subscribe to my blog. Oh, they said there's a follow-up email for that. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining me again. I hope to see you on some of these other webinars that we have coming up in the future. Please don't forget to provide your feedback to us. But I appreciate you all for joining me. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on some other webinars.